Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the in-depth tutorial where we will learn how to build a secure and a scalable attribute-based access control system using Node.js, Express, and JWT. In this tutorial, you will learn what is ABAC and why it is flexible and most powerful to secure any modern web application. We will also learn how to implement a JWT-based authentication system to verify and identify users. And last, we will see how we use the Express middleware to enforce ABAC policy dynamically based on the user attribute and resource permission. If you want to level up your backend skills or you want to implement a robust access control mechanism for your application, then you watch the video till the end. Also, don't forget to subscribe the channel and press the bell icon so that you don't miss the videos like this one. So let's get started. Alright guys, so before we just jump to Visual Studio Code and start working on our Node.js attribute based access control project, we will first go through some slides and understand what are the attributes and how this all works together. So you will see that we have a user and we have a user attributes. So the user attributes will be the ID, name, role, department, and the access level. Now, once you have this user with these attributes, what you will do is whenever a user send a request, the request goes to the authentication system where the request is authenticated. Once the request is authenticated, it is then forwarded to a policy engine where we have different types of policies return. And then based on the outcome of the policy engine, we give the user access approved or the user gets access denied. Now let's understand this with the help of our example and the endpoints that we are going to create. So here you will see that we have a user request which has an access token, and this token can be a JWT access token. We have two routes defined. One is the get API and a put API, which both have a resource project, and we want to check that whether a user based on the attributes can view the project or he can update the project. So we have these two endpoints. Now this request will go to the auth middleware where verify auth token will happen and the user authentication will be done. Once the user authentication is done, the request will go to a project policy. We are going to create the project policy which will contain two functions, a view project and update project. And then based on the access and the department or the attributes of the user, we are going to define the access to that request, whether the access is approved or the access is denied. Now we need to understand this policy engine and what are the attributes we are going to use in order to define this authorization. Let's go to the Visual Studio Code and let's start working on this project. So I will go to my Visual Studio Code, and here in the Visual Studio Code you will see that I have an empty folder. We just have a sample.txt file in my Node.js attribute based access control tutorial. Now here we are going to have three different cases. We want that admins have full access to any project. So if you are a user who has an admin role, then you will have access to all the projects. But let's say the other one is that if you are a manager, then in that case you can view projects within their departments. And the third case will be if you are an employee, then you can only view or update projects if you are part of the project team or if the project access level is within their access levels. So we are going to understand all these three when we create a user object, and we will see that what are the different kinds of attributes we are going to define on a user object. Okay, so to start with the project, what I will do is I will go to my terminal, and the first thing we need to do is let's do npm init-y so that we can get our package.json file. All right, now we have the package.json file. Let's install the dependencies. So to work on this project, the dependencies which I will need are let's have npm install. I will need the express, I will need the .env and JSON web token. So we will also need a JSON web token so that we can just have our authentication system. So I will change this to .env. All right, I will hit enter. So all the dependencies are installed. If I scroll, then I see that I have all the dependencies here. I will also install the node-mon. So npm install --save -dev node-mon, so that this should be saved, and hit enter. So it will give me a dev dependency for my node-mon. Okay, so I have this. Now let's create the folder structure as we are done installing our dependencies. So I will just minimize this for a while, and here what we will do is we will first start creating a source folder. So I will have the source folder, and inside the source folder I'm going to create a new which will have a config which is going to contain the configuration stuff. Then I'm going to create the routes folder which will contain the routes. Next I will need the controller which will contain my controller and the logic files. Next I'm going to create a data because I will also going to create some dummy data. For this project we are not going to connect to MongoDB database or anything, because the core of making this video is purely to make you understand the attribute based access control. So the rest of the connection with the MongoDB and everything, you can just watch out my previous video which was the role based access control. Then we have the data. After the data I will need the middleware. So let me have the middleware, and I will need one more folder which will be for the policies. So we are going to define the policies. So let me have the policies. All right, so we have all the folders here ready. Now I will also need one more folder which will be the util, which will contain the utility. Okay, now let's create the server.js file which will be our entry point. So I will have the server.js, and I will also create the .env file so that I can have my env variable. So I will have the .env. Now in the .env I will give the port as 5001, and I will give the JWT secret because we are going to use the JWT. So let me have the JWT secret, and you can give any meaningful. I'm just giving it randomly, my JWT secret. Okay, we have the JWT secret, and we also have our server.js file. Now in the package.json we can go and add the script so that we can run our application. So I will go here, and here what I will do is I'm going to have the dev, and in this I will write the nodemon source server.js, and I will have a comma here. So this is how we are going to run the application. Now here I want to make one more change. Our entry point is now server.js. So I will just change this to server.js, and we are also going to use the import. So I'm going to use the type here, and the type will be module. All right, now let's go to the server.js and let's create a simple express server, which we always do whenever we build a Node.js project. So I'm going to go here. I will have the import express from express, and today I'm going to do a little bit different of getting the config or the env file. So what I will do is I will go to the config, and let me create the config first, and I'm going to create env.js file which is going to load my environment variable. So what I will do here is I will have the import.env from .env. Okay, once I have it, I will have the .env.config. Now what I will do is I will have the export constant port, and this will be equals to the process.env.port, and if this is not available I will give 5002. And for the JWT also I will have the constant export JWT secret. So I will have this JWT secret, and this will also equals to the process.env.jwt underscore secret, and if this value is also not available I will just give a simple default secret. Okay, so I have my both the environment variables here. Now I can just use them. So I will go back to the server, and here in the server what I will do is I will have my constant. So let's make an express app. So I will have constant app is equals to express. Now I will make use of the middleware. So I will have the express.json so that we can have our JSON request body. And then I will also have the routes here. So for now I don't have any routes, so I will just keep it as it is. And we will also have the error handling. So I will have the error handling. For now I will keep it as it is. And let's have the app listen. And here I'm going to have my app dot listen, and we are going to listen to the port. So I'm going to just import the port from my config file, so env.js, and once I have the port, this is going to be a callback function. I will just do a console log. So let's have a console.log. I'm going to give a backtick here. Let's have a server running on port, and I'm going to give the port here. All right, so I have this. I will also have to give this .js, otherwise it is going to throw me an error. Let's run the express server and let's see. So I'm going to have npm run dev, and I see that I get an error. So it should be a dev. So npm run dev, and we see that the server is running on the port 5001. All right, so we have our server is ready. Now the next part, what I will do is I'm going to create the routes that I need for this project. So let me go to the routes, and I'm going to create the route file. So I will have here project routes.js, and to create the route, let's have first express. So I will import the express from express. Then I'm going to create a constant. I will have a router which will be equals to the express router. So we have the router ready here, and then I'm going to create two endpoints. One will be route to view a project, and there will be another one which will be route to update a project. So we only need to create two routes. One will be the route to view the project. So in order to view the project, what we will do is we will have the router dot get, and we are going to take the ID of the project. Once we have the ID, we need to have there will be a token on the request. So we will obviously verify the token. So what we can do is I can write here verify token, and once you verify the token, the request will go to my controller where my logic will be written for the authorization part, for the attribute based authorization. So I'm going to have a view project here. I know that I don't have any function for verify token and view project, but we are going to create them soon. Now I'm going to copy this and put it here, and this request will be a put request. It will also have an ID, verify token, and this will be update project. Okay, now I will just export it. So I will have the export default, and I will export my router. Okay, so I have exported my router. Now we can just make use of this router into our server.js file. So let's go to the server.js, and here what I will do is I'm going to have import project routes from I will go to the routes, and I will have the project routes.js. Okay, now I will go to the routes part, and here what I will do is I will have app.use, and I will define my routes. So I will have the API /project, and then I can define the project routes here. So I have my routes ready here. Now we will be getting an error, and the reason behind is that we don't have verified token function, and we also don't have a view project, but we will not going to worry about it. Let's keep it as it is. The other middleware which we'll need is the error handling middleware, which will be a centralized error handling. So let's go and let's create this middleware first. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to click here, and I have a file error handler.js. So this is going to be a simple middleware which is going to manage the centralized error handling. So I'm going to have the error handler, and this will give me the first parameter as an error, then request, response, and next. All right, I'm going to have this middleware. Let me have a console.log, and in the console log we can just put the error stack so that we can print it whenever we get an error. Now once we have the error printed, we're going to send a response back. So to send a response back, we have the res.status. We have to set the status as 500, and then we can just give a JSON response body. So let's have a JSON response body. I'm going to give the status as 500. Then we are going to have a message. I will just set the message as internal server error, and the third property I want is the error. So I will just give the error message, whatever message I get. So I have a error message here. Okay, this is a very simple middleware which is going to handle the error for our project. I will also have to export it. So let's go and do export default and default error handler. Okay, now we can just import it in our server, and we can just add it. So here what I will do is I will have the app.use, so we can add the middleware error handler. Okay, so the error handler middleware we have put it here, routes we have put it here, we have this inbuilt middleware which is the express.json, and we have created the express app, and this is a very simple server.js file. Now we don't have to do anything more here, so I will just close this file. We have already created the error handler. I will close this file. We already have the routes project, but we did not created this functions yet. So whenever there is a request, we are going to send the JSON web token with the request, and we need to validate that request. So we have to verify that token. So what I can do is we can go in the middleware, and I can have my authentication.js. Okay, so in the authentication.js, what I will do is first let's import the JWT, and this will be coming from the JSON web token. Now I will also import the JWT secret, which I have it here. So let me import that as well. So I'm going to import JWT. All right, now we will just create a function. So I will have an export constant verify token, and we are going to give a request response and next to this middleware. All right, now this verify token, we have built it a lot of times in the previous video in the role-based access control in the authentication part. So we are going to just do the same thing. So if you haven't watched those videos, then you can just check out, you will get the link in the description of the video. So I will just quickly write the function. I will just take a token variable, then I will have my auth header, and in the auth header, what I will do is I will take the request headers authorization. So I will have the authorization headers, or this could be request headers. So I can have the lowercase, so I will just copy, put it here, and this could be like this as well. So we have the authorization variable here, auth headers. Now once I have, what I will do is that if my auth header is available and this auth header dot starts with bearer, because we are going to use the bearer token as our JWT. So I will have the bearer. Then in that case, what I have to do is I have to take the token. I will have the auth header dot split, and when you split it, I'm going to split with a space, and you get array with two different elements in it. So I'm going to take the second element, which is the first index, and this is how I get the token from my request. Now if this token is not available, then in that case I will return a response with the status as 401 and a JSON body. And here what I will have is I will have the status as 401. We need to pass a message, and we have no token, authorization denied. Okay, so if we don't have a token, we will say no token, authorization is denied. But if this is not case, then in that case what we will do is we are going to have a try catch block, and we're going to decode that token. So let's have a try catch block, and in the try, what I will do is I will have a constant, let's decode. This will be equals to the JWT. We use the verify function of JWT, and in this we give the token and our JWT secret. So let's give the JWT secret, and we're going to set the decoded user into our request dot user. So let's have a request dot user is equals to decode. Okay, now we are going to get the user back, and we put it on the request, and after this we do a next. Okay, so this is how we will just take the user information from our token, and if there is any error, then in that case we are going to have the response status as 400. We have a JSON body. We're going to have the status as 400. Then we are going to set the message, and the message will be token is not valid. All right, now let's write the else part of this. So here we will come and let's have the else, and here what we will do is we are just going to return a response dot status 401, and let's have a JSON. That means that there is no authorization passed into the request. So we are going to have a simple 401, and let me have the status as 401 and a message, and the message will be no token, authorization denied. All right, so this is a very simple our verified token. But now you must be wondering that we have the verified token, but how we are going to generate the token, because we haven't returned anything related to the user registration or a user login feature. So that's where we are going to write a utility here, which is going to generate a token for our user. So what I will do is, so I'm going to go here and I will create a file which will be generate token. So this will be generate token.js, and this file is only going to generate a token for our user. So I will have a import JWT, it should be JWT from JSON web token, and then what I will do is I will just create a user. So let's create a user, and this will be a dummy user. So I'm going to have a user ID as 2, then name of the user as John. I will give the role to the user as let's say first he is an admin, so I will have the admin. All right, then I'm going to give the department, and department will be IT, and then I'm going to give the access level. So I will have the access level, and the access level will be let's say access level, highest access level is 4, so I will give the 4 as an access level. So this is my simple user, and this user has some attributes like ID, name, role, and department and everything. All right, now we need to create a token. We need to assign a token to this user. So what we will do is, so I'm going to have a constant token, and this will be equals to the JWT.sign, and we are going to generate a token. So I will have the first user information which I want to put in my token, then I will have the JWT secret, and the last is we need to define the expires in. So what time the token will expire, I will give the 1 hour. Okay, and then I will just do a console.log of that token. So I will have the JWT token for user role, and then here I will give the token. So let me have the token. Now if we just want to test how we generate the token, what we can do is I can go to my package.json file, and in the package.json file I will go here, and then here I will do a token, and let's see how we generate the token. So I'm going to give here node source. In the source I have it in the util, and then in the util I will have the generate token .js. All right, now we can give a try to do a generate token. We see that we get a lot of errors. Let's resolve those errors first. So what I will do is I will go to the project routes, and here I will just use the verified token so that it gets auto imported. And before generating the token, it will also give complaint for these two functions. So I'm just quickly create these functions, but I'm not going to write any logic in it. I will just create those empty functions. So I will go to the controller. I will go here, and I will have here project controller.js. Now in the project controller.js, I will have the export constant view project. All right, this is going to be an arrow function, and the other one I want to write is export constant update project, and this is going to be an empty arrow function. Okay, we have both ready here. I can just now import them. So I will have the view project, and this one will be update project. Okay, so I have view project and update project, and now let's go and let's see. It's still crashing. So first we need to add .js as we are using the type module, and we have this JavaScript, not TypeScript. So I'm going to use it for the authentication. I'm going to use it .js. Now you see the server running at port 5001. Everything is fine. Now what I will do is I'm going to have a new terminal tab, and here I want to first generate my token for the user, which I have it here. So I will go to my generate token, and I want to generate a token for this. So I'm going to use npm run token. Okay, so we are getting an error, and we see that something is pointing to the config env. Let's go and let's check. So if I go to config env, we see that we have this JWT secret, we have the port, and everything is okay here. If we go here, then we see that we did not do .js here. So let's have .js. Now I will try it again, and this time you see that the token is generated. So we get this token for the user. Now I get the token for this user. Now what I will do is if I want to make an API call, I need to use this token, so that whenever we have this routes, and here it will go to the verified token and then view project. So what I will do is in the view project, I will just do a console log so that we can see something. So I will go here, I will have the request response here, and I will do console.log authenticated. Okay, so I'm going to go to my Thunder client now, make a new request. I'm going to remove this. I will have the http://localhost 5001/API/project/1, and this is a get. Now if I send a request, then you will see no token, authorization denied. And this is happening because in the routes we have this middleware verified token, and we have already returned this authentication JS. So this is going to check for the auth headers, and it is going to throw an error that no token, authorization denied. Now let's put a token here. I will go to the auth, and in the bearer section I'm going to put a token here. So I'm going to copy the token first. So copy, I'm going to put the token here, and I'm going to send the request. So what I will do is I will just minimize this for a while, send the request, and it's processing. It's not giving us the output. So if I go here, yeah, you see here it's authenticated, but we haven't returned any response to this API. That's why it just goes on processing, but we see authenticated. That means this authenticated is working. All right, so the authentication part is working. We have just mimic authentication, did not do the actual user registration or anything. So what I will do is I will just cancel this so that it gets forcibly cancelled. Okay, now I'm going to run my server again. Now the next part what we want to do is we already have the routes setup done, and we also have our authentication JS part done. Now it's time for the authorization, and we have to define the policies. So what we can do is let's go to the policies, and let's define the policies first. So we're going to have two policies here. I'm going to create a new file, project policy.js, and here I will have two functions. So first I will have export constant can view project. So first policy is that whether you can view the project or not. So can view a project, which is going to be a function, and second one will be export constant can update project. All right, now in order to check whether a user request have an access to view a project or not, what we need is we need two things. First, we need the user information, and second, we need that project information. So this will be the user information, and then we have to check that whether this user can view this project or not. Similarly, whether this user can update this project or not. So what we will do is, first we are just going to return from here, and what we will return is we are going to return true or false. Either he can do it or he cannot do it. So first we check that if the user role is equals to admin. So that means if it's an admin, if we go and check here, if it's an admin, he has a full access to all projects. And the second part will be, if we go again, then all managers can view project within their departments. So if you are from that department, that means the user dot department is equal to project department. So if the user and the project, they both belongs to the same department, then the user can view. So we will have the department here. All right. Now the third case will be that if this user dot access level, so we will have the access level of the user, if that access level is greater than or equals to project access level. So I'm going to have the project access level. Since you already have your access level which is greater than your project access level, that means you have a super admin kind of stuff, but you should also belong to that project team. So that was the third condition we have. So if we go here, then we see that you can view a project or an update that if you have an access level which is greater than the project access level, but you also should be part of that project team. So you have the access level, but you're not part of that project team, so you should not be able to get access to that project. Yeah, so here what we are going to do is that we're going to have the project dot team dot includes the user dot id. Now this might not make sense to you because right now you only know the what is the user object and the attributes. So if I go here, you see this is the user and these are the attributes, and you don't know right now what the project looks like, how the project attributes are. So we are soon going to define the project array as well, so that you know what are the attributes available on the project. But for now, if you want to view a project, you should be an admin, or your department should be same as the project department, or you should have an access level greater than the project access level, but you should also be part of that project team. In that case, you can view the project. Similarly, if we want to update a project, what we will do is we are going to return. First one will be that user.role is equals to admin. In that case, you can update it. Second is user.role is equals to manager. So user role is a manager, but along with that, you should also belong to the same department. That means user.department should be equals to project department. So we're going to have the project department. All right. If this condition satisfies, you can update the project. Or the third part will be that the project dot team includes the user ID. That means the user is part of that project. All right, then you can update the project. So these two policies, we have defined how you can view a project and how you can update a project. And this is how you do the attribute based access control, because you are controlling based on the attributes of your objects. So now what I will do is I will go and create the data part so that you know how our project looks like. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to create a new file which will be project data.js. Okay, and this will be a simple export constant projects. It's a simple array because we are not using any database. We will just keep it a simple array of objects. So I will have the ID of my project. I will have the name of the project, which will be maybe an HR project. I will have the department this project belongs to, HR. Then I will have the access level. So this should be the minimum access level you should have, a user should have in order to access this project. So this will be access level 1. And this access level part, sometimes you also call them as an entitlements, whether the user have a particular entitlement or not in order to access this project. And the last one is the employees that are working in this project. So I'm going to have the team and we give the user IDs here. All right, so this is one of the project. I'm going to create second project. So I will have it here. Project is 2. This is an IT project, belongs to an IT team. In order to access, you should have a minimum access level 2, and the team, the user with an ID 3 and a user with an ID 4 are working on this project. All right, so this is how our project's data look like. Now we have the policies ready. Now how do we implement these policies on our request? So what I will do is if we go to the routes, we see the verified token. Once the token is verified, the request goes to our controller. So let's go to our controller and let's build that logic. So I'm going to go to the controller, and in the controller, what I will do is let's import the projects first. So I will have the import projects, and these projects will be coming from the /data project data. All right, and this should be .js. Now what I will do is first I will just create a standardized response. So I have the standardized response function. Okay, and here what I will do is I will have a constant handle response, which will be equals to an arrow function, and there will be some parameters we are expecting. Then will be the response, the status, the message, and the data, or maybe the project. So I will give the initial value, the project is null, or a default value is null, and then I will just do a response status. I will give the status whatever I received. Then we generate the JSON body. Here I'm going to give the status, we're going to have the message, and we are going to pass the project. Okay, so this is a simple standardized response for our APIs. So to view the project, we will also need to have a middleware that is going to do the authorization part against the policies. So what we will do is let's create a new middleware first so that we can have it more better. So this new middleware will be authorize.js. So what we will do is we go to the authorize.js, and here we simply write a middleware. So I'm going to have a authorize constant. So I will create a constant for the authorize, and this what it is going to accept is first we need to give him the policy, and a policy could be if we go and check, a policy could be can view project, or a policy would be can update project. So basically this policy is kind of a function. So either it could be this function or this function. Okay, so we have the policy. Now this policy will be against some resources. So in our case, the resource will be the project for which we have to check. So if I go here, then you see a project. So this resource is actually a project, and this policy is actually the function can view project or can update project. So we have this, and then this is our middleware function. So I will have a request, response, and next on it. So this is kind of a function which is returning another function. So we are going to have this function which is a outer function, and then we have this function which is an inner function which is actually the middleware. So now what we do here is that we first take the user from the request. So we are going to have a user, we're going to take it from the request. Now once we have it, what we will check that if policy which is going to accept two arguments. So this policy basically is referencing to this function, and this function accepts two argument, user and a project. All right, so for our case, the user is this user which we have taken it from the request, and the resource is actually the project which we are going to pass. So I'm going to have here the resource. All right, and if whatever the value returns from this based on the policy we defined here, whether it is a true or false. So if this is true, then it will go in this, and we are going to have a return next. We are just going to forward the request. All right, but if this is false, so let's say this is false, that means there is no access, then in that case we will just throw a response here. So I'm going to have a return response dot status, and status will be 403 dot JSON. I'm going to give a object status 403, then we are going to give a message, and the message will be access denied. All right, so we have done this part, the authorization part. I will just give you a quick explanation again. We have this authorization function, and to check the authorization we will need a policy and a project. So our policy would be a function, so it could be a can view project function, or it could be a can update project function. All right, so we take that policy and a resource against which we have to make a check. Now this is a middleware, so that's why we have this inner function which is the middleware function. Okay, so from the middleware function we get the user, and then we pass the user to the policy function where the checks happen, and we see that whether a user have an access or your user don't have an access. If this policy returns true, that means user have an access, we go to the next. That means we go to the next and complete our request. But if it's false, then we just throw an error that you don't have an access for this resource. Let's go to the project controller back. And in this project controller, what we will need is first, let's have a constant, and I will need the project ID. So I will have the project ID, and this project ID, I will just do a parse int, and I will get it from the request dot params dot id, because I'm going to pass it from the id here. So I need this id which is 1. Okay, so I get it from request params dot id. Once I get the id, I will need the project. So I will have a constant, and you will see that with the project ID as 1, if I go and check in the project data, then this is the project which I am trying to fetch. Okay, so let's get the project first. So I will have the project, and here I will just write a function get project by ID. So I'm going to pass my project ID here, and this is going to return me a project. So I will just quickly write this function So I will go here and I will have a constant. I will have the get project by ID, which is going to be an arrow function, and this is going to accept the ID and the response. So I will also need to pass a response here. So I will have the response here, and this will be an ID. So I will just correct it. Now what I will do is I will have a constant project will be equals to we take the projects dot find, and we have to find the project. So I'm going to have a project. So the project ID, if that matches with the ID which I have passed, then in that case please return me the project. Once I get the project, what I will do is I will check that if I don't find a project, then in that case I will just do a handle response, and I will pass the response 404, and I will have project not found. Okay, and if this is not a case, then I will just simply return project. So this function is basically taking the ID and a response. With the ID, try to find out a particular project from the projects array. So if it doesn't find, it will just give the response back that the project doesn't found. If it find, then it returns the project back. So I get my project back here. I can also do a console.log of the project is, and I will pass the project. Yeah, I will give the quotes here and here. So let's have the authorize middleware, and this authorize middleware, first what it's going to take, it's take the policy. So let's have the policy. So this one is a view project, so the policy name is can view project. So if I go here and check, I don't see. Let me go to the policy document and see I have exported it properly or not. So export constant can view project. Okay, I have it. So I will just copy. I will go here and I will just do an import can view project, and another one is the update can update project. Okay, so I have both the policies here now, and I get the can update project is already, so this will be can view project. Okay, so I have it. So for this authorization part, what it takes is it takes the policy, and the other one parameter is the resource. The resource is project. So I want to see that can view project policy applies to this project or not, and if it happens, then what we have to do is we will also need to have a request, and we have the response, and then we are going to have this function. Okay, so this is what it looks similarly like we do the higher order function. We have a function and we have another function. So this is how we are going to write this, because this is how our authorization looks like. Now here what we will do is if this is success, then in that case I will just need to handle a response, because if I go to the authorization and if this is true, then it will forward the request, and when the request is forwarded, it is going to handle the response here. So I'm going to have the response 200, and then I'm going to have project retrieved successfully, and then I'm going to pass my project here. Okay, so that's very simple now. Since if you have understood this part, then it's very easy that how we are writing this, because our authorization function has two functions. That means a function is returning in another function. That's why we write it like this. Okay, let's go back in our controller, and now let's work on this update project. So to update a project, you will also need a project ID and you will need a project. So I'm going to just copy, put it here. This will be request, this will be response. Once I have the project, what I will do is I will similarly have an authorized, and in this authorized I'm going to pass can update project and the project detail. Once it is done, I will have the request response, and then I'm going to have a function. All right, and in this I can simply write the same thing, handle response, but this will be 200. This will be project updated successfully, and we pass the project. So we have done with our controller as well. Now we can just give a try and test our implementation about the attribute based access control. So I will go here. First I will get this, I will send the request, and I see that I can easily view the project retrieved successfully. This one was the project. If I try 2, I will get 2 as well, and the reason behind is the token which I have, the role of that user is an admin, so it's a super admin. He has all the accesses. Now what I can do is I will just keep this one as it is, but I will have another one. So I will go here and create a new request, and I will put it here. All right, and I will give this as 1. Okay, now what I will do is I'm going to create a new token. So I'm going to just close everything so that we can only have the token part. I will close this also, I will close this also, I will close this also, and I will go and generate a new token for the user. So this time I have another user whose ID is 1. Okay, and his name is Dipesh. His role is manager, and he works in the IT. The department is IT, and the access level is 4. So now let's generate a token for this user. So what I will do is I will go here and I will generate a new token, and I have this new token. So I'm going to copy this new token, copy. I will go to the request. I will go to the auth bearer, and I will put the token here. All right. Now he's trying to access the project as 1. So let's go and let's check what is the project 1 is. Project 1 is an HR project, and the user is belonging to the IT department. So he should not be able to access that. So what I went, if I send a request, I see 200 and he was able to retrieve it. So I made a mistake because I did not save this file first. Now I save this file and I generate a new token again, because this token is also was for the admin. So let me go here and I run, and now this time I see the token is for the manager. So I'm going to copy this access token. I will go here and I will try to access it. And if I send a request and I see that it's still able to access it, let's go and check our policy. So if I go to the policy and can view updates, we check that the user department should be matching with the project department. If this is not the case, then the other case will be that user access level. So for our case, the user access level is 4, all right, is greater than the project access level. So the project access level is 1. So that means this is satisfied. And the project.team includes user ID. So project.team, if we go and check, is 1 and 2, and the user ID, if we go and check, is 1. So that means the condition is getting satisfied. So that's why we able to see this. But what we can do is we can just change it. If I go to project here and I'm going to change this, this should be accessed by 3 and 4, all right, and this should be accessed by 1 and 2. So let me change this. All right. Now, if this time I've sent a request, then you see that I get an access denied because I am not able to satisfy any of the condition from here. Similarly, if you want to do it, can update project. So let's see that we can do a can update project or not. In this case, the user will be user role is equal to manager. Yes. And the user department. So the user department is IT. And if we go and check the project department is HR, so it should not be allow us. So if I go and put, if I send, I get access denied. But if I go to do the second one, then in that case I should be able to do it. So what I will do is I'm going to just make a request, and maybe I will just change some values. So I will copy and I will send the request, and in the request I will make it as new. When I send it, oops, I made some mistake. Okay, so what I will do is I will remove everything and I will just keep it the name of the project, because that's what I wanted to update. So I will use name, and let's try to send the request now. Then you see that we have the old name, although it says updated, but we still see the old name. But if you want to change this, what we can do is we can simply go to the controller, and in the controller, before handling the response, what we can do is I can simply have a constant. I can take the project index that I want to update. So let me have the projects dot find index. All right, I will have the object, and we can just simply update the, so I will have the object.id. This ID should be equals to the project ID. So I will have the project ID. Okay, so first I will get the index. Now I want to update the value on this index. So what I will do is I will have the projects, and let's update the index. So I will have the project index, and here on that I have to update the name property, which will be equals to the name which I am passing. Okay, and now this name we will get it from the request body. So I will have a constant name, and this name will be equals to the request body. Okay, now if I try, then it should work. So I will send the request, and you see that IT project new. So this is how we just do the attribute based access control, and that's purely depend on the policy. So this is one of the policy, project policy, but when you work on a bigger project, you have more granular level of access control, and you have a lot of different policies for getting this access control. So I hope you like the video. We have seen in the past the role based access control, but this is a different access control, which is the attribute based access control, and these attributes are based on the objects, whether it could be a user object, environment object, or it could be anything within the project. So I hope you like the video. A thumbs up is appreciated. You can also connect with me via Facebook or Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter for latest updates, and before you go, don't forget to subscribe the channel and press the bell icon so that you don't miss the videos like this one. Thank you. Thanks for watching.